Hello and welcome. The battle to free his small country from Indonesian rule took the lives of his family and friends and sent him into exile. But for nearly 4 decades he persisted and finally became a leading light for guiding his people. This week on One on One, meet Nobel Peace laureate and East Timorese President José Ramos-Horta. Life in the East Timorese capital, Dili, was challenging for his Portuguese father and East Timorese mother, but José Ramos-Horta remembers a very large, close Catholic family with a strong sense of justice that ended up mourning the loss of 4 children at the hands of Indonesian forces, including his close brothers Guilherme and Nuno. Ramos-Horta, a founding member of the Revolutionary Front for an Independent East Timor, or Fretilin movement, went on to become one of its leading spokesmen. From the mid-1970s, just as Indonesia invaded East Timor, Ramos-Horta was the Fretilin permanent representative to the United Nations and spent many of the following years in exile, learning the workings of the UN intimately and building high-level relationships. In 1996, Ramos-Horta, along with his fellow countryman Bishop Carlos Belu, won the Nobel Peace Prize, boosting awareness of the small country's tense situation. An assassination attempt on Ramos-Horta at his home in February of 2008, a year after being elected president, surprised many, as he's known to be an extremely popular and charismatic leader. But it reminded him that the challenging political story of East Timor is not over yet. Mr. President, I'm really glad to have this time with you. It's nice to speak with you.
Thank you.
You've helped to create a nation. You've been through so much getting to where you are, but your country still obviously has a lot of issues. In your personal and your professional life, what are your priorities? What's at the top of your list of priorities?
From when I was a child, a teenager, I was always sensitive, emotional, passionate about the suffering of poor people. So I champion, I advocate help to the poor, and we are getting there. I think we have the obligation to eliminate extreme poverty in my country within 10 years.
Now you, very sadly, you were shot in February of 2008 and were in a coma for 10 days. After you recovered, you said you remembered every moment, every detail of what happened. Take me through what happened through your eyes.
Yes. Well, first, a background to it. In 2006, we had a major political crisis resulting from conflict within the army, within the police, serious turmoil in the city, not in the rest of the country. And some of the soldiers left the army and they went into the mountains, led by a major called Mr. Alfredo Reinaldo. From day one, when they left, I attempted to engage them in dialogue, met with them in the hills, different parts of the country, wherever they were, and established a line of communication with them. By the time I was shot, I had already a 3-month plan to completely resolve this problem. And it was known in the country, known to everybody, that I was in favor of dialogue, that I opposed the use of force against them. Everyone was surprised why José Ramos-Horta, the president, was shot when he was, in fact, the one who was spending time with the rebels, talking with them, pacifying them. And they told me in the last meeting I had with them that I was the only leader in the country they trusted. I was the only one clean from the crisis in 2006. And then a month later, I'm shot. Well, that morning I went out as usual, early in the morning, 6 a.m. for my power walk exercise. I heard shots on my way back, and we identified the source of the shots coming from my residence. Instinctively I decided to go there because I was concerned about the people in my house. And confident or overconfident that once I'm there, whatever the shooting that takes place, who was shooting who, they would stop. As it happened in 2006, during the crisis in my country, I was all over town. Everywhere there was fighting, I would go and pacify the people, and nothing happened to me. And I could have been killed in 2006. I was in the middle of the fighting with machetes, with slingshots everywhere, and nothing happened to me. So I was overconfident that my appearance alone would make them stop shooting, without realizing that, of course, the shooting happened when the rebels entered my house and disarmed some of my soldiers, and then, but one of them, more alert, shot and killed the rebel leader and his bodyguard. One of them, who was there, knew I would be arriving, ambushed me as I approached my gate. From about 20 meters, I saw him. He aimed his gun at me, a powerful rifle. I turned to run, and then when he hit me first near on my shoulder, I felt the burning of it, and then I dived, and the second shot hit me here. This was the most serious. Two, self-explosive bullets, and yet, when I fell, I didn't panic. I got the phone from my pocket. I called my chief of staff to tell her what happened to me. So I was totally alert, and then I was taken in an ambulance 20, 30 minutes later to an Australian Army military clinic. That's where they saved me. They did a fantastic job.
Considering what you've been through now and looking back on all you've experienced, even from this assassination attempt, how has it changed your personal philosophy in life? How do you approach life nowadays?
Well, it's strange enough, I haven't had any nightmares, any bad dreams. Maybe later, I don't know. It's now many months passed. I went back to my house. I was told not to go back to my house, that I would have nightmares. Absolutely nothing. I've had very good sleep. Well, I saw death. I saw the ugliness, the darkness of death. And I came back to life because I was near death. And make me more, obviously, opposed to violence. I harbor no resentment or feeling of revenge toward those who shot me. They're all in jail now. I visit them, and I make sure that no one harmed them. So if anything, I hope that it make me into an even better human being.
Let's go back through your family history. You were born in Dili, in the East Timor capital, and to a Timorese mother and a Portuguese father who himself was in exile.
Yes.
What do you remember of those early years?
Well, my father came to Timor in the 30s. He was a sergeant in the Portuguese Navy. He and other officers in the 30s tried to take two warships from the Portuguese Navy to go to Spain to join the Republicans in the fight against Franco. Well, their attempt failed. My father was deported to Timor. Well, these are one of those, absurdities, ironies of history, that I am a product of the Spanish Civil War. If it were not for the Spanish Civil War, my father would not have been involved in the mutiny to help the Republicans. He would not have been deported to Timor, and I would never have been born.
You even had a grandfather who was sent into exile.
My grandfather was also an anarchist in jail in Portugal, then was deported to Timor as well.
How are these characters in your life influenced yourself? How do you think they've shaped your own character?
I think the only influence on me, plus the influence of my upbringing in Catholic Church, is my profound, deep sense of fairness, of justice. I am absolutely against injustice on poor people, on weak people.
Now, you were part of a huge family, a dozen children. Your mother must have had a very hard time keeping you all together.
Oh, yes, yeah.
What sort of characteristics did you get from her? What was she like as a character?
Oh, my mother, she is very talkative, very opinionated, so talkative. And she doesn't understand what's going on. Sometimes, there is, the only country she knows is Indonesia, Australia, Portugal. If she watches news for instance, floods in Bangladesh, she said, wow, so bad in Indonesia, what's happening there? I said, listen, lady, if you pay attention, you would notice that this is not Indonesia, they're talking about Bangladesh. She's a great woman, suffered a lot with us, 11 kids, survived World War II in Timor, survived Indonesian occupation, witnessed the killing of my brothers and sisters, her children. So she suffered a lot.
You lost 4 brothers and sisters.
Yes, four brothers and sisters. At least 2 of them have been buried. Other 2, we even don't know where they were killed. Somewhere in my country during the Indonesian occupation. We don't even know where they were killed so that we could exhume their bodies and rebury them with dignity.
The small village, Subaida, where you went to the Catholic missionary school and you were educated, it actually became the headquarters for the Fretilin, the Revolutionary Front for an Independent East Timor, which you were a co-founder of. How did things change in that time with the formation of Fretilin and a movement for independence?
Well, I grew up in that Catholic school, extremely conservative Catholic school. You have to pray, 10 times a day, and Mass every day. Then every evening you have to confess your sins to the priest. Can you imagine? I was 6, 7 years old, what sins you have, but you have to confess. And I didn't have anything to confess, and if you don't confess, the priest is upset with you. He doesn't forgive you. So I would make up sins, just to make up so that he would leave me alone. It became headquarters in the beginning of our resistance, but it was overrun, and the movement then split and went into different parts of the country. We ceased to have a permanent base because the island is small. The Indonesian forces were always chasing the resistance. So there were no fixed headquarters.
But of course your life was soon to turn upside down. I'm going to touch on that in a moment. We have to take a short break here. We'll be back with more one-on-one with President Jose Ramos-Horta in just a moment.